Good evening. It's Sunday, November 13th. The ballots are in, and we have the results. Vladimir Sobotka is 229 days away from signing with the St. Louis Blues. This is Pucknology Writers Room. Tonight we'll be discussing the Montreal Canadiens' fiery start, even though they lost tonight, Brian Bickell's unfortunate announcement regarding his health, and we'll dive into the viewer mailbag. We encourage you to continue to send in your questions and topics for discussion, and thank you to all of you who have done so far. You can be a part of tonight's Pucknology Writers Room by commenting in the Google chat, Vince G, or sending in your tweets to @Pucknology using the hashtag PucknologyWR. And please help spread the word. If you enjoy our show, please tell your friends to subscribe to our channel. Tonight, we have the trio back together once again. I introduce the Director of Content for Pucknology.net, Drew Weber.
Oh, that's right. I'm Director of Content now, am I?
Wow, he's the lead writer. Let's not get
I was like, hold on.
I don't know.
Promotion?
That's yeah.
Apparently I gave you all my jobs. So how about that?
Yeah, that's
All
pay
right.
raise though. From 0 to 0, I will take it.
Right. Yes.
Well,
No,
I'm at Kevin Lacey, 22, and apparently I have been gone for 1 week and completely forgot everyone's responsibilities. Sorry for not being here last week, folks. I broke the golden rule, I guess, of shows before hoes, but
Man.
she's not gonna ever see this, so I can go there. But
It went that badly, huh?
I was hanging out with a lady friend, and I like her a lot. Wait, I had sunglasses for that. I like her a lot. And I forgot. I got to introduce Ian here. So, ladies and gentlemen,
The real Director of Content.
the real Director of Content and your host, and the guy who's going to be housing Drew and I for the next 4 years up in Canada, Mr. Ian Reed.
Hey everybody. Like I said, I said on Twitter earlier in the week, orientation, it's every day at 4. When to use A is at 5. Zach Devine is going to have a Tim Hortons double in U in the middle of break. And then after that, the class is at 7, how not to freeze to death. So look forward to that. Look forward to teaching everyone that out. Welcome to the Pucknology Writers Room, episode 21, I believe, which is awesome. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been an interesting week, but we're not going to dwell on too much of the other stuff. We're going to keep it hockey like we always do. So let's get down to business and stop screwing around. The first thing in the news, I think, is the biggest news story probably from the past week, even though it's a little bit out of date now because it happened basically after we recorded last week. Jacob Trouba, 2 years, $6 million with the Winnipeg Jets. This to me is a silly deal for Winnipeg. I don't know if I'm super jacked if I'm Jacob Trouba right now after sitting out, and because I feel like there's at least $2 million each year left on the table there. So Kevin, what do you think of the Jacob Trouba signing?
It's peculiar that he held out, and granted, I'll take $6 million any day. Over 2 years, over 8 years, whatever. I'd be happy with that. But it seems kind of silly that he held out for $6 million. Although at the same time, really, he was more holding out for a trade than he was holding out for a contract, It seemed like. So good for him and the Jets to get it done. But, man, it's a little too late, I think, already in terms of I don't know how Trouba is going to be this season, missing all of that time. Yeah,
I mean, because even the World Cup, I mean, that's far and away. I thought he had a great World Cup, though. So hopefully, without, but even still, that's still a lot of time to miss. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, it is a lot of time to miss because he misses all of training camp, basically, although granted, he does play the games at the World Cup. This is the bridgiest bridge deal to have ever been bridged. You could put this thing in New York for how much of a bridge it is. But, I mean, like Kevin said, it's great that they reached the deal. So Trouba's still playing the NHL. The Jets get their defenseman back kind of thing. They're not waiting till December 1st, so he's out of the, he's out of the league for a year, basically. But I can't help but feel like this is still a part of the trade talks. I don't I don't think just because he rescinded his trade request that this is over yet. I think he still might get dealt this year.
Kevin, what do you think? So I mean, that's basically where I wanted to go next with this, because I know on the Twitter machine, you know, you had some people being like, "Look, everything's good. He rescinded his trade request, yay!" And I'm like,
he's gone.
"No,
he's gone.
I agree."
Gone. Yeah, I still think Boston is where he ends up. Detroit makes a lot of sense, but Detroit doesn't make any sense because Detroit doesn't have money to even go for a guy like Trouba, even at $3 million per year.
They have negative money for Trouba.
Right. Yeah. In fact, yeah, I don't know how that would work. I think Detroit would need to somehow pay the entire Winnipeg team. I don't know how it. See, this is how confusing the Detroit situation is. I'm completely flabbergasted right now. He's going to Boston. That's what I'm saying. Because everybody goes to Boston confirmed, right?
Oh, totally confirmed.
Absolutely confirmed.
Yeah, because you look at the deal. The deal is very easy to move. You know, that 2 years, $3 million per. That's an easy to move contract kind of thing. The reason he wanted the trade, from what I understand, is because he wasn't going to get to play on the top D pair on the right side because, you know, Dustin Byfuglien is a person. So that situation hasn't changed yet. So I don't know why he would actually rescind the trade request when he hasn't gotten anything he's wanted. His contract isn't as much as he could have gotten for it. He's not playing the position he wanted. So I think he has to be moved. And you can't repair the damage that you do but to the relationship between a player and a team when you ask for a trade, basically.
Kevin Cheveldayoff was on Hockey Central at noon earlier in the week, and after the contract got signed, and he really put on a good facade about, oh, no, Trouba's here to stay. He's not going anywhere. But, I mean, he sounded really believable, but I don't believe him. But
well, it's because Kevin Cheveldayoff doesn't trade anybody.
He couldn't even get Travis Hamonic last year when Hamonic was basically saying, trade me to Winnipeg now.
Right. Oh, man, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know where he's going to go because, you know, it's hard to move pieces like that, especially with what the Jets want back. I mean, you know, a lot of people don't want to do that kind of trade. They don't want to basically be like, okay, great, now we've got, you know, this guy on this side and that guy on that side. Like, I don't, you know, a lot of teams don't have the luxury of having that guy, you know, or if they want to trade so that Trouba can play with that guy. They don't want to just move him and then have the same problem they had before. So I you know, the only other team to me that makes a lot of sense is, and I mean, he's a little bit older too, but like if I'm Winnipeg, I'd be interested in Jake Gardiner. I think you could. Jacob Trouba. I don't know.
Yeah. There are a lot of teams that Trouba, or there are a lot of teams that would take Trouba who need that help on the blue line. But it's a matter of, do those teams have what Winnipeg wants back? Like, look at Colorado. Colorado could totally use Trouba, but what are they going to send back for him, kind of thing? Unless you're just dealing picks.
Right. No, they want players. Yeah. They want a defenseman. That's
refresh.
They want a left-handed Trouba.
Yep.
That's true. Refresh my mind, guys. Why is Jake Gardiner always the subject of trade rumors from Toronto? Besides the fact that he just hasn't lived up to his hype. I mean, has he complained about ice time in the past? Because I'm drawing a blank on that.
No, I mean, the reason why I say Jake Gardiner is Toronto's farm system is packed just at pretty much every division, at every position rather. So if, you know, it's not like, Jake Gardiner, I think Jake Gardiner is a good defenseman. I think he's probably better than he gets credit for because of that media market. But I just think that when you have such a embarrassment of riches like Toronto does right now in their farm system, that Jake Gardiner really doesn't hurt because you can bring another guy in.
Yeah. Vince G in the chat says that locker room in Winnipeg is going to be a little awkward now. Yeah, but not as awkward as Evander Kane.
Nah, I just throw his tracksuit in the shower. It'll be fine. All right. So do you guys think that this will be enough to get the Jets into the playoffs? Because right now they're playing pretty decently right now. They're on a pretty good stretch. Do you think that Jacob Trouba makes this a playoff team, or what do you think?
It's tough to say because they have 17 points right now, which is good enough for third in that division. But at the same time, they've also played the most amount of games. They've played 16, which is tied with St. Louis. Everyone else has played, 13, 14 kind of thing. And I think if they won those games in hand, everyone would be ahead of Winnipeg. But, the Central Division, they're going to get those 2 wildcard spots most likely. So really all they have to do is beat out Colorado and then one of either Minnesota or Dallas, depending on how much Dallas feels like tanking this season. So they have a chance. They just don't have to finish in one of the bottom 2 spots to make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that they could. I'm not thinking that they're a divisional seed by any stretch of the imagination. I think we'll get into the standings later, but I don't think a wild card spot's out of the question. I mean, as long as their offense keeps up. I mean, I think right now Scheifele is like top for points, I think, right now, or something crazy like that. Scheifele
has been just really, really solid this year, and he got the game-winning goal in the shootout today against LA.
And Laine is also leading the league in goals right now, so
yeah.
And they got my boy Connor.
They've got the parts. Yep. And Hellebuck's been pretty good. Like, I mean, not clear-cut number one, but I think him and Hutchinson have carried the load so far together.
Considering there was no Trouba until 2 games ago.
All right, so let's move on from that. From interesting Jacob Trouba news to really unfortunate news. So Brian Bickle diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and that's not fun at all. I mean, that's horrifying. I can't even imagine how horrifying that must be to get that diagnosis.
Yeah, I mean, it's you wish him the best of luck kind of thing. It's like, he has this NHL career and everything, and then to be diagnosed with that, your career might be over, just like that. And one of the articles I was reading was saying he was having issues with his back and stuff like that, and he can kind of feel like something was wrong, but he didn't know what yet. And that diagnosis comes out earlier this week, and it's got to flip his life upside down.
I wonder how long it's been affecting him. I mean, I don't really know how they determine if you have MS or not. I'm not a doctor, but considering that 2 years ago, Brian Bickle was tearing it up in the playoffs, and then last year suddenly he had no goals in the first 25 games or something for the Blackhawks, got sent to the minors, all that hullabaloo. I wonder Brian Bickle comes off to me as a very prideful athlete. I mean, most pro athletes have a lot of pride, and they're going to try and suck it up as much as they can. And I wonder if Bickle has been dealing with this for some time and just hasn't been upfront about it because he wants to continue playing.
Right.
I mean, look at Josh Harding.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, you look at Josh Harding, he got the diagnosis saying he played for another maybe 2 years, maybe. And then he retired because he just couldn't go anymore. I mean, and that's the scary thing is you don't know when it's gonna take its full effect on you. I mean, there's a couple of diseases like that where you have no idea when, you just kind of a time bomb waiting to go off. You don't know when it's finally your body's just gonna finally say, okay, I hate it now. It's really crappy, and I can't even imagine. I mean, I don't do anything important. I just sit here and talk on the internet, but I don't know what I would do with that diagnosis, let alone if I had a bajillion dollar NHL career. So it is awful, and yeah, I mean, there's hopefully they find a cure at some point, but right now, I mean, there's a couple of treatments that show some promise, but overall, I mean, it sucks because it is what it is. Like, I don't know. All right. Happier news, maybe.
Kind of depends how you stand on this.
Grossman he got his contract terminated by Calgary, so he go play in Sweden. Yay!
What I find interesting about it was that in the off season, since Drew is our resident analytics analyst, Grossman was on the market, and I had asked him, what do you think of him as a sixth defenseman? This was before the Sharks even signed David Schlemko. And Drew was really not, he said the numbers didn't look really that great. And it's like, well, that would probably explain why Arizona, like bottom of the standings, Arizona would let Grossman go. He's had a nice career, but that's a guy who he can still make good money overseas, whether in Sweden, in Russia, wherever he ends up. But it's weird because Grossman went through that tryout with Calgary, and they signed him. They technically could have kept him on a tryout through the start of the season if they really were unsure of themselves about him. They couldn't play him during the tryout, but so it's like, why go through the effort of going through this whole tryout, signing the guy, and then less than a month into the season releasing him?
3 games in, he only played 3 games.
Yeah,
and he was a -4 in those 3 games.
Yeah, I mean,
well, plus minus is the be-all and end-all stat.
You know it. I use plus minus when it's convenient for me.
All right, fair enough.
I use plus minus when I'm a plus in my hockey games.
All right. That's fair. I'll allow it. Yeah, I mean, you know, Sweden's nice. I would play in Sweden. I'd play hockey anywhere. So good for him. All right, so let's get into the mailbag. We got a few questions. One question we keep getting reworded over and over and over again is the Sharks backup situation. So this one comes in from @SanPolo89 on the Twitter machine, and basically just again, what do you guys think about bringing in a veteran backup? If do you think that's on Doug Wilson's mind if that Dell doesn't start getting some starts here? Kevin, I'll start with you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a topic until the trade deadline. I mean, even if so the last time we saw Aaron Dell wasn't that great, wasn't terrible, but he gave up a goal on his first shot of the game, and just we want to forget about that game. So that's that. But if Aaron Dell wins like his next 5 games, if he starts 5 games before the end of the calendar year and wins them all, we're still going to get this question because the fact that he's not had any NHL experience before this. And the other part of it is there's still so many goalies looking for jobs in the NHL. So.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like right now, I don't think the fans really know what we have in Aaron Dell because we've only seen him those 2 games. One of them's against the Rangers, who are on fire. The other one's against the Penguins, who are on fire, kind of thing.
And
but
they'd already rolled over us for how many goals at that point?
Yeah. So what concerns me, though, is the fact that he hasn't played. I know when we played Calgary and Arizona at home, those were definitely games, or one of those games Dell could have started, but they didn't. Instead, they're still riding Martin Jones. So that leaves me a little bit concerned as to how much this coaching staff really trusts Aaron Dell. So that's why I'm still pretty much 100% sure that they're going to go after some sort of veteran backup goalie, whether it be Kerry Ramo, who's in free agency right now, or they trade for a backup. Like, heck, maybe you go after Condon when Ottawa's done with them. They have their goalie crisis over.
Well, Mike Condon had a really nice start to his Senator.
Do we really need a used Condon, though? A used Condon? Do we really need one?
A used Condon?
Yeah.
Actually, that's an interesting point, though, because it was a different era. But remember, the Sharks used to have Carter Hutton on their roster. Mm-hmm. They did? Well, yes, he did. He backed up 24 straight games behind Evgeny Nabokov without playing 1 second. And then, was that when the Sharks got Brian Boucher? So, I think it was. So, yeah, I mean, it's a different era, but it's kind of the same situation where if they're not going to use Dell, that might be the route they end up going with.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about this on After Dark last night too, so I don't want to overly completely rehash the conversation, but I think that just to kind of reiterate what I said there, I think this week is going to be very telling on what Peter DeBoer thinks of Aaron Dell and whether it's a trust issue or not. If Aaron Dell doesn't get this start in Carolina, then to me that says for sure Peter DeBoer doesn't trust him. Now, I feel like we've seen this before, though, with, Doug Wilson's basically saying, look, this is your guy because this is the cap. And they really, if Aaron, they can't, where is Aaron Dell going to go? They can't put him back down. I mean, I guess they could if they really wanted to, but I don't think that's fair to Grosnick at this point, who's actually played pretty well. I know Armalis hasn't been great. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I don't think it's fair. I don't know. I mean, it's a business, but I don't think it's fair to Grosnick to kind of just give him back Aaron Dell at this point. And and at that point, why didn't you just buy, why did you either A, bring back Aaron Dell, or B, why didn't you buy out Grosnick last season when it would have been painless? To me, this is more of a disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff. I think that Peter DeBoer might want somebody different. I don't know if he's going to get somebody different.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, like, me from what my standpoint is, like, if they send Aaron Dell back to the Barracuda, this sounds terrible. I don't care how Marlis or Grosnick feel if it makes the NHL club better. But yeah, Wilson has to be willing to make a trade or to sign a contract so to bring in a backup goal. And if he's not, PDB is going to be stuck with Dell.
And then Jones is getting too many starts, and it's on fire.
And then we trade for James Reimer again.
But the other thing is the fact that folks need to kind of just give it up on the get a backup goalie thing for now, because what you guys said about they need to let Grosnick and Armalis have some games. They also need to let Dell have some games, whether PDB wants to or not is another story. But if they were going to get a backup goalie, it's not going to be like a more experienced backup goalie. It's not going to be right now. It's November 13th. So they didn't go through the off season with the expectation of Aaron Dell to only be the backup goalie for 4 weeks.
Right. No, I completely agree. I mean, I think Dell right now is still in the, at least as far as the front office is concerned, Dell is still in the plan. And as far as bringing in someone else, unless you're going to pick up someone on the waiver wire that's dirt cheap or spend assets for a guy you could have had on the waiver wire 2 weeks ago, who are you bringing in? You can't bring in a Jarl Halak. You don't have the cap space. You don't have the cap space for that. You don't have the cap space for even, his other half in Thomas Greiss. Looking at other goalies out there, I mean, a lot of these goalies that are on the market, they have too big of tickets for the Sharks to fit under their cap, period. Mm-hmm. So unless you're sending Tommy Wingels the other way and still trying to make room, I don't know how you get it done.
If the Sharks do want to get a backup goalie, an experienced backup goalie later on in the line, they're going to need to do it before the Kings decide, although Peter Budaj is doing very well, but maybe we should beat those guys to a goalie before Quick comes back and gets hurt again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. But I feel like, just not even just us. I feel like everyone has kind of beaten this topic to a pulp. So I'm going to move on to our next question, if that is okay with you guys.
Yes.
I guess.
All right. So our next question comes from Pucknology Supervan Vince G. You can find Vince G at VincentG_86 on Twitter. And his question is, with the Barracuda forward talent off to a good start and threatening for the big club's jobs, curious what you guys think the Sharks lineup should look like after some deadline subtractions and call-ups. Drew?
So I don't think there's going to be much of a change at the deadline, at least. The only person who will probably be moved at the deadline is Nieto, because I think Wingles' contract is too big to move right now. So you move out.
Deal, though.
What was that?
I said on a rental deal, though. They only have so much to pay. I mean,
that's true. But still, I mean, I think Nieto's going to be the most likely candidate to be moved because he's already lost his roster spot to Kevin Labanc. So Labanc comes in, assuming he stays throughout the whole year, which he could. He could also be sent down. Who knows? So I think that's the only move that's going to happen at the deadline. But in the off-season kind of thing, I don't think Nieto would come back anyway. Wingles won't come back. Marlowe's probably not going to come back. So there's 3 roster spots. You give to Labanc, you give to Meyer, you give to Sorensen. And then maybe you don't bring back Melker Karlsson because maybe Nikolai Goldobin or maybe Barclay Goodrow is ready to step up into that spot. Or maybe both of them come up and one of them takes the 13 forward spot. So right now at the deadline, I don't see much changing. But next season, you could see as many as, 4 or 5 new forwards coming in.
Kevin.
Drew pretty much reflect my views on that. There's too much money tied up and too many bodies on the NHL roster right now. Not that that's a problem, but just it's not going to happen right now. But this next offseason is going to be very curious, especially if the Barracuda continue to score, and score.
And maybe get scored on less, but we'll get to that.
Maybe get scored on less.
Well, the Shark. That's the one thing, though. The Sharks can look down in the minors on the D front and go, "Well, our jobs are safe."
Yeah, exactly.
Unless if you're Dylan DeMello, then you can't buy.
Oh, poor Dylan DeMello.
Yeah, look.
What do you guys think of him? Him not getting any games so far.
Okay, let me get there. Let me finish on the topic, and then we can go to Dylan DeMello. I think that with the Sharks right now, unless if you get a deal to move Wingles or Nieto, and I don't know if either are truly even on the table. I don't know what's going on in this front office. I don't pretend to know. Logic would dictate that both of these guys should be on their way out. Logic should dictate that this, could be Patrick Marleau's last year until he's gone. I'm not saying he's gone, but if Brent Burns is going to eat a ton of money. Joe Thornton probably gets another deal. Let's be honest here. I still think that Marleau could easily be the odd man out at this point, but I don't know that to be true because the Sharks, I thought that Wingles would have been gone before the season even started. I was really surprised when they brought Nieto back, even on that sweet deal that they brought him back on, because they're not going to send him through waivers. They'll lose him. They'll lose him in a heartbeat if they send him in waivers. So to me, I think what you're going to see a lot of is these little showcases. Like I think you're going to see guys like LeBanc come up and get a look. I don't think LeBanc stays up after this road trip, to be honest. He might not even be up when the road trip is finished. But maybe with the Carlson injury, I think, because I'm not saying LeBanc's done bad. I think that he's not there yet. And
he's
I
still
think
adjusting.
Yeah, he's not there yet. I think that the fact that, and I said this last night too, the fact that he's where he is, he's ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
That should make Sharks fans ecstatic. If the fact that he's not ready yet shouldn't upset anybody because he shouldn't even be getting this look right now.
Right.
So I think that that's really, really positive for Kevin LeBanc. And if he goes back down, I'm not upset about it. I think you're going to start seeing this kind of stuff happen, though. The second Timo Meier, they think that Timo Meier is ready to come up. He's coming up. It's not an if, it's a when. Is Timo Meier coming up? So I think that if Timo Meier has a good comes up and gets his stuff together, he's doing okay in the AHL. He's still trying to find his timing and stuff, but I still think the Sharks are going to want to have a look at him there. Another guy that I would bring up, and which I wouldn't have said before the season, is Nikolai Goldobin. I think Nikolai Goldobin could absolutely get brought up and put on that first line to see if they can get something clicking there. And I think he's actually earned the shot, to be completely honest, based on his play with the line in the Barracuda. So, I think you're going to see like little additions like LeBanc's currently getting. I think that's what you're going to see a lot more of. I don't know if anyone's going to lock down a spot though, unless they blow the Sharks coaching staff, away. They'd have to blow their socks off. On to DeMello. I'm surprised that DeMello can't get ice. I don't think Paul Martin's been incredibly good, but we know that PDB does like his veteran players. I don't think I think the bigger problem for DeMello is that bottom pair has been so damn good.
Absolutely.
And when you have a bottom pair clicking like that, do you really want to mess with it? No, I don't. I don't remember if DeMello played with Burns at all last year. I'm not sure that's a great.
No, he played with Braun and Dylan.
Yeah, I don't know if we know that. We know. Yeah, I don't know if that's a great combination. I don't think you mix it up either. I don't know if you play like Braun with them and then put Vlasic and Burns together. That's really had limited success. So I think the problem for DeMello is that everything's it's not clicking perfectly on the defense. Like obviously there is defensive issues, but the places where you could slot him in aren't ideal at this point, I think. And that's unfortunate for him.
And they're not the problem either. Like you said, if you were to slot him into the lineup, you're not going to slot him in next to Brent Burns. That's too risky. You'd slot him into the bottom pair. But like you said, that bottom pair has just been incredibly good. Brendan Dillon's the top possession defense in the NHL. Are you kidding me?
Sleepy Mofo saying move Schlemko with Burns. I'm not opposed to trying that. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just think, again, it goes back to that pairing has been so good together. Do you really want to break that up? Kevin?
Because if you move Schlemko, you run the risk of hurting Dillon kind of thing. But Kevin, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. That does make sense. I mean, as far as Dillon and Schlemko have been very good together, although I thought they were really putrid against Pittsburgh. Not that really any of the Sharks weren't. But
yeah,
there was a stretch in the second period where Brendan Dillon actually got benched because he was that bad in that game. And Schlemko did end up getting paired with Burns because Burns was double shifting. Dillon ended up coming back and is still remained in the lineup. But I thought that benching might finally open the door for DeMello to at least get a game in, and it didn't happen. So Paul Martin, Christine, I believe, she sent in a question about this exact topic.
Yeah, so we're gonna get there next.
Yeah, Paul Martin, yeah, he's been really inconsistent, which is surprising for a veteran defenseman, of course. We kind of saw it coming in a way. But, I mean, the fact that he is older, there you go. If you want to save him for the playoffs, put DeMello in now.
Yep. No, I agree. I think if you're going to, again, you know, it's like the perfect game to get Dell some action against Carolina. It's a perfect chance to get DeMello into the lineup against the Hurricanes. But what we see that, I don't think we do.
See, it's like you almost want to treat DeMello as like a backup goaltender kind of thing. Like, you know, like I said, Paul Martin's getting old. He plays tough minutes. He plays with one of the more aggressive defensemen in the league. So, I mean, when you're on these long road trips, why not just pull him out of the lineup for a game, get DeMello in there. DeMello gets his ice time. Paul Martin gets his rest. It's not like Brent Burns is super bad at defense anymore. He's legitimately good defenseman now. He's not too much of a liability. So, I mean, you're not leaving DeMello out to dry with him anymore, is basically what I'm saying. So you might as well try to sub him in a couple of times.
Before we move on to the next thing, because there's a lot of Carlson chat. So all we know about Melker Karlsson at this point is he left last game wearing a boot.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we know.
Okay. Hey, what?
So that could be massive swelling. That could be fractures. That could be just sprain. You know, there's a lot of different things that could put your foot in the boot.
It could be the latest fashion craze too.
Yeah.
It could be
all those crazy Swedes, craze. You know. Why did LeBanc leave like 3 times last night? Did that ever get disclosed?
He got hit in the face with a puck.
Okay, he just got beat up. Okay.
He just, he's you know, it's funny because when I was talking about the possibility of LeBanc coming up before he actually got called up, I was talking to Chris Edwards, who's at Sharks Prospects on the Twitter machine, and you know, his thing was that he was concerned with LeBanc coming up before he got called up, that he was, you know, he's still gets his head down a lot in the corners and stuff, and he kind of leaves himself vulnerable to you know, vulnerable to those, you know, to big hits and stuff like that, and that's an adjustment you have to make going from junior to pro. So I think that that's probably part of it too, is he doesn't really protect himself at an NHL level yet, in my opinion, and I agree with that assessment. I don't know what you guys think.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does.
I was mad about the LeBanc call-up only because I was in the process of writing an article for Pucknology.net about should the Sharks call up Kevin LeBanc, and then immediately gets called up.
Oh.
And then I was going to write an article about what's going to happen with the Barracuda's offense. You know, they'll be fine. But what's going to happen with them? Fine. And then Paul Gackle beat me to that article too. So I'm just like, oh.
Everyone's taking your ideas.
You can't beat Paul Gackle, man. He writes all the time. That guy's a machine.
Yeah,
like,
shout out to Paul.
Yeah, Paul's a machine. He's constantly spitting out content and stuff, and you know, gotta give him credit. Okay, so let's get to our final mailbag question here, and this one's from Christine, who is at CP URL17 on the Twitter machine. And she's also in the chat with us tonight.
Hi,
So she
Christine.
says, hey guys, you've probably drafted out your outline for the tonight. And actually, we were really, like, I think this afternoon. Drew was
Yeah,
like,
planning. Sure.
We totally did that a couple days ago. We didn't do that like
no.
years ago.
Drew was like this afternoon, he's like, we probably need to fill this out a little bit more. And I'm like, I don't know. And then we got this question. I'm like, yes. She'd be interested in knowing, who do we think would be a good candidate to be the new Burnsy Whisperer? Should Paul Martin be traded or picked up in the expansion draft? What attributes should he have? I am team take Paul Martin in the expansion draft. I've been since last year. Even though he was good last year, I think that Paul Martin's a guy with a contract that looked good, looks good, okay, looks okay now, but I think next year and the year after, not looking so good on that contract anymore. But you had to give him the term to get the contract in at the right price. Burnsy needs a defenseman that can, how can I put this? You need a defenseman that is defensively responsible but can skate at the same time. Like, you need someone who can move around the ice with Burns at Burns's speed.
Mm-hmm. So Nicholas Grossman is not coming to the Sharks then?
No. And I'm trying to think of, like, if I could, like, pick a defenseman out of thin air, who would I put with Brent Burns?
Vlasic.
Mark Edwards. Oh, you beat me to it.
No, but we know Vlasic doesn't work. That doesn't work.
No,
Giordano.
Oh, there you go.
Calgary's Vlasic.
There you go.
I don't know. Can you guys think of, like, a defenseman off the top of your head that you would, like, if you could just take a person from another team and plunk them beside Burns? Who's that perfect guy?
See, the thing is that the perfect guy
is Mirko Mueller.
Is Mirko Mueller?
Well, no. In the perfect world, it's Mirko Mueller. It's just,
but it's not. The thing is that Paul Martin was that perfect guy because he spent so much of his career freaking carrying around Brooks Orpik. Brooks Orpik is not that good of a defenseman, people. Yes, he was on Team USA, and look at
Hockey Jerk might have it.
Oh, what'd he say?
Aaron Ekblad.
Aaron Ekblad. Okay. Paul Martin for Ekblad. 1 for 1.
Thank goodness.
I was thinking that's kind of the way I was thinking too, like an Aaron Ekblad or maybe like a Darnell Nurse type player. I think would go really good with Burns because I think that Darnell Nurse's defensive game's a little bit underrated. Hannafin, yeah, I guess no, I guess young guys because they'd have to be able to skate, right?
Trouba.
And yeah, Trouba.
Only thing about oh dang, who the heck did Nurse. Only thing about Nurse though is that Nurse has kind of some aggressive tendencies himself, like Burns. So he's not,
but he's much better on the defensive end of the puck.
Oh yeah. No, he's a good defenseman. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying he's not that kind of calm, stable defenseman. Or at least not yet. He's still a little wild child right now.
Yeah, the person to play with Burns has to be someone, I think, like you said, good skater, defensively sound, and I think they should be used to playing with somebody who is, not necessarily a defensive liability, but takes those risks kind of thing. And that's why, like I said, that's why I thought Paul Martin was perfect, because Brooks Orpik doesn't know how to play defense.
Yeah, sorry guys, not PK. You can't put PK with. I mean, like PK is, they're kind of the same defense, but it's like when we had Boyle with Burns, it made no sense.
Oh, let's get Shea Weber. We can't have PK too, man. Can we get Shea Weber instead?
Shea Weber would actually probably work pretty well. I think Weber would be fine with Burns.
Those poor forwards blocking those shots though. Take your pick. You want Burns? You want Weber?
Can you imagine that?
I don't know.
They're breaking ankles in a totally different way.
I was thinking because Lance Boma, I feel like, always gets like a broken ankle or broken leg every year. He's a Calgary Flame, for those of you who are unaware. But every year he gets hurt blocking a shot and is out for like 2 months. So I'm just picturing Weber and Burns, and their first game as a pair, Calgary. Lance Boma's like, oh no, I'm just going on IR now.
I think to answer the Hjalmarsson actually that
would be excellent. I mean, these are all pipe dreams, but
for sure,
yeah, Hjalmarsson.
That's the problem, and that's basically the point I was going to make next. The unfortunate problem with the type of players we're mentioning is you're not getting them via trade unless they're a older more broken down version of.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, these are players that unfortunately have to develop, and the Sharks don't have any of that in their system. So the unfortunate thing is, you know, you just got to hope that if Burns sticks around, which we all think he will, that if it's not Paul Martin, if Paul Martin gets taken in the expansion draft, that one of their other guys can kind of, you know, fit that role. I'm not sure who that is. Maybe it's David Schlemko, you know, and maybe DeMello and Dylan's a thing again. I don't know if that sounds great to anyone else, but yeah, I would rather a Burns whisperer than a Dylan whisperer.
Can I just bring up the expansion stuff with Martin? The thing that I think everyone needs to remember is the Sharks don't get to pick who's going to Las Vegas. Las Vegas picks who's going to Las Vegas. So, yeah, I agree that Paul Martin should be exposed based on his play this year and his contract and everything. But they might not necessarily take him.
No.
Because depending on who else they take, I don't know how the order of selection is going to be, but they might have 5 veteran defensemen already on the roster by the time they get someone from the Sharks. So they might go a different direction.
I don't know what else they would take from the Sharks, though. Just based on what the Sharks could protect in my brain, I just feel like you're taking Brendan Dillon, or you're taking Paul Martin, or maybe you're taking David Schlemko, maybe you're taking Justin Braun.
Yeah, exactly.
It
depends if they go 7-3-1 or whatever that thing is. So they only protect 3 defensemen. You're going to protect Vlasic. You're going to protect Burns, and then you have to pick between Braun and Schlemko. And personally, I'd pick Braun because he plays the tougher minutes, but I could see why people would want Schlemko too.
Yep. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Paul Martin could go, but they have to fill up so much cap and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I'm not saying that Paul Martin for sure is a sure thing gone. I mean, if I had my way, that's who Vegas would take, and I would send all my vibes that way, and that's what would happen. But yeah, I don't know.
Thanks for sending that in, Christine.
Yeah, these are really good
questions. And everyone.
Yes, please keep sending your questions in because they make the show. As you can see, I mean, pretty much everything, over half of the show, we've been talking about stuff that you've requested, and
there was no news this week.
There was no. Yeah,
November's always a dry month for sure.
It is.
But,
so let's talk a little bit of Barracuda.
Sure.
I think because Kevin's back and I've watched some games. I didn't watch the games this weekend. Friday, I wasn't feeling it. I just was like, I don't know if I could ever be truly hockeyed out, but the stream was kind of eh. And I'm
I heard there were problems with the stream and with
it wasn't very
both radio
clear.
and TV.
It was very, the stream, like the video was just not very clear. It was like, I feel like it was shot with like one of the mini tape cameras from like the 90s. I feel like that's what it was shot
and
with.
That's what makes no sense to me about the AHL, because they charge, I believe, $350 for their web service or something like that, and
it's stupid expensive.
And yet most of the games aren't in HD, despite the fact that they do record the games in HD for all these arena jumbotrons. So that part of it makes no sense to me. But I
want to just answer the Sleepy Mofo question before we get into the Barracuda. Does Las Vegas have to take a player from each team? Yes, they can only take one player from each team. And
then there's that whole deal with free agency now, where Las Vegas can actually scoop up a UFA early. And if they do scoop up a UFA from another team, that team is exempt from the expansion draft. So that's another.
So basically, that's their pick then. Okay.
Right. So that part's a little. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the Barracuda here because we're probably going to run just a touch long because your guys' questions are awesome.
Yeah.
And I would not cut the show short for two. I think the Barracuda, we need to talk Barracuda because I don't think Pucknology as a whole, we don't do enough Barracuda. And I feel like, especially this year's team. Yeah, Kevin, fuck's sakes. Especially for this year's team, like this year's team's exciting. I mean, yeah, they can't keep the puck out of their own net, but they can score a lot of goals. Kevin, talk about what you've seen of the Barracuda so far.
Unfortunately, not enough yet, but I've read a lot, and I did go to that Barracuda game last Sunday, and they look really confident. I'm curious to see how the Barracuda play without LeBanc, although I'm not worried about their offense. And no one should be, considering they won like 8-6 or something yesterday. But the thing I did notice was that LeBanc, like all the offense when LeBanc is out there goes through him, whether it's a play he's making or just setting up for a shot. So I didn't like that because I thought they telegraphed it too much. But man, those guys are really good. And I was hanging out with Hockey Jerk at that game, and we noticed that their penalty kill is darn good.
Mm-hmm.
They have a really good penalty kill, which I didn't think their penalty kill was terrible last year, although statistically they were. But they actually look really good on the PK. Yet they still can't keep the puck out of their net.
Yeah. I've enjoyed watching the Barracuda. I've only missed a couple of games. I kind of was flipping, going back and forth between the Barracuda game yesterday and the Sharks game. Obviously, Sharks, I had to pay a little more attention to the Sharks game was actually worth watching. I thought last night was one of their best efforts of the season so far. But yeah, I mean, they can put pucks in the net. I love what we're seeing from the kids. That Charche, Goldobin, LeBanc line is obscene. I don't know who they replaced LeBanc with on that line yesterday.
They split them up completely, I think, because I think Goldobin's playing second line and Charche's playing third line now. I could be wrong, but I think I saw that lineup. So I think Carpenter's on that top line now.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well,
Carpenter, I like Carpenter. I mean, there's no...
The one that has been a little concerning for me, and Hockey Jerk mentioned it in the chat already earlier this evening, Marcus Sorensen has kind of just disappeared. And I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if it's the curse of Nikita Yevpalovs, because that's who he's been playing with. But not that Yevpalovs is... I mean, that guy can handle a puck with anybody. It's just putting it all together for him. But Sorensen, like, there were a lot of chances that he could have gone and chased down pucks. Because all we did, if you've been watching Pucknology Writers Room from the start, you've heard us just nonstop talk about this guy's blazing speed. And the game that I was at, that was non-existent. There were so many times that he could have raced out for a puck and easily blown past whoever he was out against, I have no doubt. And yet, for whatever reason, he didn't. He looks like he's lost a little bit of confidence, like he's looking around trying to figure out where he needs to go a little too much and not relying enough on his instincts. So that's a little concerning for me.
Yeah, I had really high hopes for Sorensen. I actually, when we were talking about the who could get called up thing, I forgot Sorensen existed for like the first 20 minutes while I was like running through my notes kind of thing. I'm like, oh wait, he could make the team.
Yeah.
It's funny because
you haven't heard much from him.
Because I was talking about on Twitter, right? Like I was talking on Twitter today. I don't remember. I think it was with Sharks Writer on Benchy, and we were talking about like just NHL and who could get called up, and who doesn't make sense, and like I'm still in this big thing that I still think the Sharks should flip Gaudreau because there's just I don't see room for Gaudreau in the lineup. He's been passed over so many times now. I think he's an NHLer. I think Barclay Gaudreau is an NHLer on another team. He's just not an NHLer here. And I think that you're not going to get anything. You're not going to break the world for a trade in him. But I think that you could get something for him.
Like a defensive prospect?
You could get something for him, I think. Yeah, you could get a prospect. You could get a low-round pick. I know he helps the Barracuda, but I think I just don't think he's just a journeyman AHLer. I think he's a bottom six NHLer somewhere, just not here. But we're going through names, and I said, your guys that are only gonna, you have a couple of really good pieces. Like the defense, the defense is but like of the forwards, it's a decent group, but it's not. It's not, it's good collectively, but it's not. There's nothing really special there. Like your highest ceiling guys are still Nikolai Goldobin, and they are and they're Timo Meier. But these guys are complementary pieces. These are not superstar. they're going to carry a line. They're going to need pieces to make they're good, but having the right pieces around them will make them great. I feel like, and I kind of feel like that's Marleau too. I think Marleau's more of a complimentary piece than a get on my back, guys, we're going, right? Like they're not. And then all the other guys, like, I mean, there's a lot of players I'm excited about, and I completely skipped Sorensen too. Like, I think Chartier, LeBanc, the jury's out. I don't know what he develops into. He could be a middle six forward, I think, but a lot of these other guys are bottom nine, middle six at best. You know, Chartier, O'Regan. I don't see any talent after Goldobin, after Timo.
And even with Goldobin,
Carlson's.
Yeah, and even with Goldobin, I am curious to see how he does with LeBanc gone for however long he's gone, because I think Goldobin's kind of like what you said about Marleau. I think he's more of a complimentary player. I think he's a damn good playmaking. Everyone talks about his scoring, his goal scoring ability. I really think he's a playmaker more than he is a goal scorer.
That's what Hockey Jerk's saying.
He's got to. Awesome, Hockey Jerk. But he's got to have a scorer on his line to do it. And last year it was Yevpalov for the first part of the year, and that obviously went nowhere. And then it was Peter Emanuelson, who is another playmaker who's not even in the Sharks organization anymore. So it's good to see a guy like Goldobin have really good success at the start of this year because of the fact that who he was playing with. But that's just it. It's all about who he's playing with.
Yeah, and just like Sleepy Mofo in the chat, is like Timo and Nikolai equals Jumbo and Patty. No, they equal Patty and Patty. There's no Jumbo in this group. And I'm not saying, I think that's a problem.
I don't think there is a Meyer on the Sharks yet until Meyer becomes it. I don't know. I feel like Meyer has like just a different kind of.
He has a different skill set. But the thing is, though, and I think that this is something that Sharks fans also do as well, is like, well, who's going to be the next Jumbo? Nobody is going to be the next Jumbo. Why? Because one-of-a-kind, first-ballot Hall of Famer talent, ask Detroit about replacing Hall of Fame talent. It's unreal. It's just unrealistic expectations that someone's going to come out of this Barracuda team and be Joe Thornton. You just don't. Joe Thornton. Now, the question you should ask, and the way you should ask that, is who is the next first-line center on the Sharks?
Yes.
And that's a more interesting conversation because, I think that's the way that Sharks fans should look at it. If Sharks fans are looking for the next Joe Thornton, well, you're going to need to tank and be really bad and win some lotteries because you're not going to get a Joe Thornton. I mean, Joe Thornton's a first overall pick, justifiably so. And yes, sometimes you can get a late round gem that turns out, but Pavelski isn't Pavelski without Joe. Sorry, he's not.
Joe Thornton's made a lot of people rich. Look at Jonathan Cheechoo.
What do you guys... Ian, I know you've seen quite a bit of the Barracuda games, but what do you think's wrong with Mantis Armalis? Is it just a matter of him not being used to North America? What's going on there?
He's weird.
Yeah.
Mantis Armalis is weird. He is very Ian style goalie. I feel like he's not. He moves weird. Like he's not. I don't know what it is. Like he's almost. He reminds me. You know what he reminds me of? He reminds me of like early Nabokov with just trying to make these circus-like saves and then trying to scramble back into position. He moves funny, and there's sometimes where I'm like, how did he get back into position? Because with Armalis, he overplays pucks, and then he doesn't overplay them very well. And I think that's with Armalis. From what little I've seen of him, I've never seen him play in Europe, so I don't know, how he was over there. But
it's a different game.
Yeah, and it is a different game over there. I mean, there's a lot more, there's a lot more room on the ice, the different rank dimensions, and it is a different game than the North American game. He might become something if, as he settles in more. I mean, let's be honest, this guy's never played on North American ice, as far as I know. Can he figure this out? Maybe, but early, I'm not a big fan. I've been really impressed with Troy Grosnick, who I completely wrote off after last year. But Armalis, he moves funny, and I don't know. Like, it's just, I get a heart attack every time he's moving around, and I can see where, because of the way he moves around and how he kind of pushes himself out of position, and then like, yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just, you got to go watch this guy and then try and make sense of it for me. But once you see him, once you see him play, it's kind of, I don't know.
I did go see him live, and I can't make sense of the guy, but he looked good, at least in that game. But yeah, his fundamentals are just kind of,
right.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, hey, nice save. Wait. Oh, okay, you're okay.
See, the interesting thing is that, now granted, I haven't watched the Barracuda much this year, so I haven't had a chance to really compare Grosnick and Armalis kind of thing. But Armalis is only performing marginally worse than Grosnick. Grosnick has a 3.33 goals against average and 8.83 save percentage, and then Armalis has a 3.39 goals against average and 8.81 save percentage. So we're talking 0.2 or 0.02% in save percentage. But I think a lot of it, based on what I'm hearing from you guys, is the visual aspect of it. Like, he doesn't look composed, while Grosnick,
it's Dominic Hasek, but not good.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, it makes no sense, but instead of making no sense and stopping all the pucks, it makes no sense and the pucks go in the net. And look at the Barracuda defense needs to take a little bit of responsibility here, and maybe this is a good topic to end on. Is wrong with this defense? Is it just all the goalies? I don't think it is. I think, going back, like how you said, the different percentage, I think the difference for me is that Grosnick is making saves this year that were sure goals last year. Difference is the way he's playing, the way he's adjusted his game over the summer. I feel like he's making saves this year that were guaranteed goals last year. He's battling a little bit better, but he's battling still, but he's more positionally sound.
I think part of it this year is the fact that they are so offensively inclined on both their forward and defense cores that their back check needs to improve. Because if you look at the Barracuda last year, they were all, except for maybe Ryan Carpenter and Goldobin, they were all third-line AHLers, which generally means defensively responsible, not so great offensively. And this year, it's totally different. So I think it's trying to figure out what they need to do, be in the right position, back check. Because I look at a guy like Tim Heed, who's a defenseman, and I wrote quite a bit on Pucknology this offseason about, I don't know what kind of defenseman he is because he's really scrawny. And he's really offensive. And I look at him, he's making pinches, not that they're necessarily bad pinches, but he's making pinches to hold pucks in the zone or create offense or whatever. And then there's nobody really supporting him in case he blows his assignment. And so I think part of that is feeding into the high goals against total so far for the team. It's just that general play. Go ahead.
No shutdown defenseman on this team. Like, it looks like I look at the defenseman, and you have Joachim Ryan, who's a more offensively minded defenseman. Yeah. Julius Bergman, more offensively inclined, who I don't know what Mirko Mueller is. He's kind of in the middle somewhere. I'd consider him more of a two-way than he's not a shutdown. He's not really an offensive defense. I consider him more of a two-way defenseman.
I think that's all three of those guys you just mentioned are like that. I mean, I love Joachim Ryan, but he's
I mean, they're not. They're none of these guys are D first, and I think that's a part of the issue. They don't really have a shutdown guy. Period.
The one guy is Dan Kelly, and he's still suspended for eternity because the Barracuda have only played like 5 games in the first 93 weeks of the season.
Is he not back now?
He might be back now, but I mean, God, to be suspended for an entire month because your team doesn't ever play, that's a little harsh.
See, I just don't understand. I just don't understand how it's like you have Mirko Mueller should be tearing up the AHL right now. Julius Bergman should be doing pretty well in the AHL right now, and neither one of them are. So how much of this do you think is on Sommer, that these two defensemen who probably should be in the NHL right now or could be in the NHL right now have just stunted in their development?
I don't know if its expectation is that they should be in the NHL right now. Defensemen are notoriously up. I don't think that Julius Bergman should be an NHL defenseman at this point. I don't think that I don't know if that's a realistic expectation for Bergman. I saw of him on the Knights. I think it's hard, because I bounce back and forth on Sommer a lot. Yes, the records had so many bloody games under his belt, and there's some things that Sommer does that I don't like. But at the same time, this is probably, and when you consider how long he's been here, this is probably the most talented group he's had to work with in the whole time he's been our AHL affiliate coach. So I think that, you got to, I don't know. I mean, you have to cut him some slack for that, I think.
Okay.
Just, I don't know.
Yeah.
And this is the most, and this, look at between this year and last year, I mean, this is the most AHL hockey one time. I've lived through YouTube clips and everything else to try and do before, and it's hard because it's hard to scout things when you're looking at that. And I don't consider myself a scout. I'm a guy who likes hockey and watches too much YouTube. But yeah, I don't know how much of this is Sommer and how much of this is just the fact that you have too many of the same type of defensemen.
All right, I'm going to challenge everyone who's been in the chat. Thank you all for joining us this evening, because I've seen a couple of posts saying, I really need to check out a Barracuda game. Yes, you do. Check out a Barracuda game and send in your thoughts to @Pucknology and let us know what you think of these guys so we can finally figure out what is going on with that defense.
There you go. Yeah, like I said, if you're angry with the Sharks, I don't know why you would be right now because they're winning. But if you get angry again, but you still want to watch a hockey game, go check out a Barracuda game. You will not be sorry. If they're fun, I don't care if they win or lose. They're a fun team to watch.
They are. Plus, someone finally won the grand prize on that Chuck-a-Puck last Sunday, which was awesome.
Yes, Chuck-a-Puck.
After all year, no one won it last year.
Ian, did you hit it from Sault Ste. Marie?
I did. I went like just boom. All right.
Awesome.
I need to get us out of here.
Yep.
Kevin, do we need to wear turtlenecks to the game, Stu? Kevin, do they need to wear turtlenecks to the game? Is that proper Barracuda attire?
If you want it signed, I think.
Oh my goodness. That was my favorite comment maybe ever in the chat. Right when we started, Vince G said, use the hashtag #WeAreAllKevin and you can enter to win a signed Kevin Lacey turtleneck. And I think that is fantastic. Oh man. But I will be in turtleneck if you ever see me in a Barracuda game.
When's the teddy bear toss, Kevin? Do we have a date on teddy bear toss yet?
Oh, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. We will tell you very soon. If you're gonna go to a Barracuda game, go to the teddy bear toss. Bring a teddy. Toss teddies on the ice.
I'm a teddy.
Do good things for
Toss
people.
me on the ice. I'm a teddy.
There you go. Toss Kevin Lacey on the ice. All right, look, I gotta get us out of here.
Maybe I could actually stop a puck.
I gotta get out of here. So let's get some final thoughts here because Drew needs to go from this game to another game. He's got to get his gear on and stuff. So
I'm complaining about how sore I am for the next week.
Drew, yeah, sorry, Drew's going. I Kevin'd you again, guy. Final thoughts, Drew.
You know what? If there's anything to take out of this that we didn't talk about, it's how good the Sharks have been doing lately. 3 wins in a row, so I think that's very exciting. And ultimately, the way I look at it is the Barracuda should just feed into the Sharks, and their forward core is going to be good for a very, very long time.
Awesome. Kevin.
I am at Kevin Lacey 22, and the Montreal Canadiens are currently 13-2-1. I still don't know why, but I can't wait for Carey Price to get hurt again so we can see this fall apart all over again.
Wow. All right. I'm Ian Reed at I Read Pucknology. My final thoughts are watch a Barracuda game. Barracuda games are fun. I hope that I want to do more Barracuda talk on this show, because I think that's the one place where we're a little underserved on Pucknology. So I'm hoping that if you have a Barracuda question, send those in as well. Keep your questions coming. Your questions made the whole show. I mean, I don't even think we got through all my notes at this point.
Which is what we want.
Which is what we want, exactly. Like I like being able to go through the notes and basically just toss things aside as the time fills up, because I'd rather talk about things that you want to hear us talk about. That being said, next week we'll do a little standings dive next week. So I kind of wanted to do one this week with some of the movers and shakers. So I think we're going to do another standings dive next week. So stay tuned for that. Send your questions in. Please keep them coming. You guys make the show what it is. So keep it rolling. I'm not going to do any fancy outro, so peace out.
Later.
Woo!